Well, the second part of that question is a little harder to answer than the first part, so let's start with the first part. I voted mail-in the primary. It was what I would describe here in Massachusetts pretty similar to the way mail-in ballots work in most states, which is it's basically absentee balloting on steroids. And part of the reason we put that program in place in Massachusetts was because we weren't really sure where COVID was going to be for the primary or the general election, and we wanted to make sure people who were concerned about going to polling places would have an option. And it worked just fine. The same way it worked just fine across the rest of the country. Now, we've been through some really difficult periods of time and points of transition in our nation's history. Let's pick, how about Abraham Lincoln, who got 39% of the popular vote and 52% of the electoral vote. But that electoral college had to actually show up and vote based on the vote that took place in their states for him to be elected president, because he got the majority of the electoral vote and a plurality of the popular vote. He got more popular votes than anybody else, but he didn't get to 51. And there was tremendous concern because of the fact that our country at that point in time was basically unraveling, that the Electoral College wouldn't stand up and do what they were supposed to do and vote on behalf of the people who had actually won the presidential election in their state. And they did. Immediately, on the day that they were asked to do it. A huge part of this nation's glory, to the extent it exists as a beacon to others, is the peaceful transfer of power based on the vote of the people of this country. Mail-in balloting has been with us forever. And that peaceful transfer of power is what the people of this country rely on when they go to vote. It is appalling and outrageous that anyone would suggest for a minute that if they lose an election, they're not going to leave. Period. And I know that I speak, I am sure, for the vast majority of the elected officials in the United States of America when I say that. And that's where I think a big piece of the voice, whatever happens on Election Day, will come from. How many times at the end of an election have we heard the words, "The people have spoken"? Now, we all spent that primary being very excited about the size of the turnout we had here in Massachusetts. Record-setting turnout in our primary. That's a good thing. And I said at the time when I got asked about it, people think there's a lot at stake in this election. And there is. Whichever state you're from, region you're from, or where you're voting up and down the ticket. So one way or another, the people are going to speak in November, up and down the ticket for all those races that are out there. And those of us who serve in public life will do everything we can to make sure that the people's will is followed through and executed on. Because that is fundamentally why there's a United States of America in the first place.